An ex-UFC fighter takes a job as a bouncer at a Florida Keys roadhouse, only to discover that this paradise is not all it seems. Today's film is a crime thriller from 2024 titled Roadhouse. The movie opens with Carter Ford in the middle of a wild bar brawl, showcasing his skills and taking down his rival like a boss. Meanwhile, there's a woman named Frankie on the hunt for Carter, asking around the bar like a detective on a mission. Outside, there's this shady character lounging in his car, eyeing the scene. Carter's on a winning streak, racking up victory after victory. But then, out of the blue, Mr. Mystery Man decides to step into the ring, revealing himself as Elwood Dalton, a legendary UFC fighter. Carter's face goes pale as a sheet. He knows this dude means trouble. He quickly leaves the ring, muttering about how Dalton's that guy. As Dalton leaves the bar, a man with a knife demands money from him, but Dalton is not afraid. He stands his ground doing what he's good at, and the guy bolts like he's seen a ghost. Frankie catches up to Dalton, teasing him about his sneaky tactics in the ring. But Dalton's got bigger things on his mind, like patching up the stab wound he just acquired. Turns out, Frankie's got her own set of problems. Her roadhouse is a magnet for troublemakers, and her bouncers can't handle the heat. She needs someone tough to clean up the mess, and she's willing to pay big bucks.
No, you'd be better. I can pay you good money. $5K a week, just for a month.
Dalton suggests she talk to Carter, but Frankie insists he consider her offer, giving him her phone number before he leaves town. Later on, Dalton was catching some Z's in his car at a gas station, minding his own business, when a cop tapped on his window and told him to leave. Dalton hit the road, but then something dark crossed his mind. He pulled over onto some train tracks, thinking about ending it all. But at the last second, he had a change of heart and tried to move his car. However, it was too late. The train smashed into the back of his car, jolting him awake and making him rethink turning down Frankie's job offer. Next thing you know, Dalton was cruising down to the Florida Keys. He rolled into town and was greeted by Charlie, a spunky kid who co-owned Glass Keys bookstore. She was all about this famous tree called Fred, smack dab in the middle of the 7-mile bridge. Dalton was clueless, but Charlie hooked him up with a book all about Fred for the tourists. As Dalton started to talk about his bar cleanup gig, in came Stephen, Charlie's dad, swooping in to save the day. With Frankie's roadhouse address in hand, Dalton jets off, taking Fred the tree book as a parting gift. When he rocks up at Frankie's joint, he's blown away to find out it's called the Roadhouse. Inside, he meets Laura, the bartender, and orders a drink. Meanwhile, Billy is excited to see Dalton and claims to know who he is. Dalton enjoys the cozy vibe of the place and compliments Laura on the ambience. However, as the evening progresses, the peaceful atmosphere disappears, and the roadhouse turns into a chaotic madhouse with people fighting left and right. Even a band member jumps into the brawl. Del and his biker gang enter the joint, scaring off the customers. When Billy fails to restore order, Dalton steps up and takes charge.
Oh, who the fuck are you, Mr. Smiley?
Mr. Smiley?
Dalton taps Del on the shoulder, asking for a chat outside. Undeterred, Dalton makes his way towards their bikes with a determined stride. Concerned, Del and his friends hurry after him, intent on preventing any trouble. But when Del stands his ground, insisting on a fight, Dalton gives them every chance to back down gracefully. Yet, when Del remains stubborn, Dalton's patience wears thin, and he unleashes a flurry of slaps, leaving them stunned. Still, Dalton urges them to retreat as victors, but Del's refusal only provokes Dalton's fury, and in a matter of moments, he has them all nursing injuries. Once the scuffle is over, Dalton doesn't hesitate to assist Del and his friends, arranging for Frankie's car to take them to the hospital.
He's probably got a concussion, and then he's got knee damage, possibly a dislocation.
As he emerges from the medical facility, he is intercepted by a disapproving doctor named Ellie. She frowns upon the group's antics and threatens to involve the police. Dalton, however, merely chuckles, claiming that law enforcement rarely pays attention to his kind in their neighborhood. Ellie's demeanor softens as she tends to Dalton's wounds, striking up a conversation about his fighting history. Dalton shrugs off the notion of winning fights, claiming that there are no true victors in such contests. After administering antibiotics and offering a word of advice, Dalton says thanks and goodbye to Ellie. Outside, 3 suspicious figures can be seen keeping tabs on him. Back at the roadhouse, Frankie compensates Dalton for his week's work, and their casual conversation takes a more serious turn. Dalton admires the beauty of the bar, prompting Frankie to reflect on its significance to many patrons. She mentions a nearby hotel, but Dalton prefers the idea of staying on a boat, which happens to be owned by Frankie herself. Later, as Dalton drifts off to sleep, memories of his past UFC fights mingle with dreams of his next bout, until he is roused by Laura in the morning, signaling the start of a new day. Laura brings him breakfast, and as he digs in, she starts chatting about the other bouncers they've had. With a sigh, she adds that she hopes he'll be different. Meanwhile, Dalton swings by Charlie's shop and sweet-talks her into letting him use their computer. Just as he's getting settled, Charlie hears a ruckus outside and grabs her trusty bat. Some troublemakers are causing a scene, teasing her. But before things escalate, Dalton swoops in and the troublemakers scatter like startled pigeons. Curious, Dalton chats with Charlie and learns a bit about her family. Her mom's idea for the bookstore, now deceased, and his dad working a second job. Back at the roadhouse, Dalton bumps into Frankie and spills about the weird dreams haunting him since his boat days. He wonders if there was a secret meeting about him, since everyone in town seems to know his name.
Town meeting or something? How does everybody know my name?
Yeah, that's just how it is around here, man. I mean, it's a gossipy sort of island.
Meanwhile, two bikers, Mo and his pal, rendezvous with their boss, Ben Brandt, aboard his ship. Ben's none too pleased to hear about Dell's slip-up and the odd new bouncer. He's dead set on clearing out the roadhouse, much to his men's chagrin. They suggest involving Ben's old man, but he shoots down the idea. Back at the roadhouse, the rowdiness continues, but Dalton advises Billy on handling the situation. He warns him about a guy packing a concealed knife and disarms the troublemaker with Dalton's guidance. When things get hairy, Dalton swoops in to save the day. With Dalton's coaching, Billy gets better, much to Laura's delight. Later, Dalton strikes up a chat with Reef. Discovering he's a boxer, he hires him to back up Billy at night. Together, Billy and Reef keep the peace. But trouble brews again when a guy named Jim starts pestering Laura for free drinks. Just in the nick of time, Dalton shows up. Dalton's gaze sweeps the room and lands on Dell and his cronies, who promise a swift return. That night, Dalton's sleep is disturbed by visions of his last brawl, replaying the painful defeat. Come morning, Dalton finds himself in a diner, enjoying a meal when his eyes lock with Ellie's. After a fiery exchange about her hairdresser, Dalton's curiosity gets the better of him. He probes why everyone here seems so perpetually mad. Ellie warns him to steer clear of trouble, but Dalton's charm kicks into gear, turning their conversation from tense to tender. As Ellie departs, Dalton compliments her hairstyle, cementing a budding friendship. Later, Dalton crosses paths with Frankie, who shares a photo of her late uncle and commends him for his work. With next week's pay in hand, Dalton heads towards his boat, only to face a near-death encounter as Dell attempts to mow him down. Narrowly dodging Dell's attack, Dalton finds himself submerged in the ocean, his truck sinking. Returning to his boat, Dalton is greeted by Dell, shotgun in hand. A scuffle ensues, and Dalton gains the upper hand. He tries to sort it out by talking, but fate takes a dark turn as a crocodile emerges, claiming Dell's life. The next day, a local informs Dalton of Dell's possible involvement in drug dealing, leaving him puzzled. Determined to uncover the truth, Dalton investigates at Charlie's shop.
Back at the roadhouse and
No, it's
can you
you're
zoom?
no.
But finds no evidence to support the drug theory. Leaving the shop, Dalton encounters a thug sent by Ben, armed and ready to intimidate. Unfazed, Dalton swiftly disarms him by breaking his index and finger, leaving a clear message for Ben. As another of Ben's men arrives, Dalton makes his stance clear. He'll be waiting at the roadhouse, ready to confront Ben face to face. Dalton catches Frankie at her office and asks her about Dell's interest in the place. But Frankie waves off his concerns, telling him not to let it bother him. As Dalton heads out, his head's buzzing with even more questions than before. Meanwhile, the guy nursing his busted finger fills Ben in on the latest. Ben's boiling mad, seeing Dalton as the main roadblock to his big plans. Just as tensions peak, Ben gets a call from his father in prison, but he's so steamed that he hurls it into the waves without a second thought. In a distant land, Knox faces a difficult situation when he is caught by his girlfriend's angry husband and ends up walking down the street without any clothes on. However, in the nick of time, Gerald Brandt, Ben's father, calls him and gives him an important task. Knox is eager to help, and quickly gets to work on sorting out his son's chaotic affairs. He manages to get some clothes from a passing tourist, but also causes some trouble by setting a few shop windows on fire before leaving. Meanwhile, Dalton's day takes an unexpected turn when Ellie shows up on a police boat belonging to her ex. She persuades Dalton to join her on an adventure, and they end up on a small island in the middle of nowhere, enjoying some cold drinks. During their conversation, Ellie tries to learn more about Dalton's past, but he is reluctant to open up. He tries to leave, telling Ellie that he is not worth her time, but she refuses to let him go. She tells him that she has done some research on him and knows more than he thinks. Eventually, their conversation turns into a kiss. Back in town, Knox arrives at Gerald's house, only to find himself in a room full of Dell's buddies, with Ben joining the mix. There's confusion all around until Knox makes a bold move, delivering a punch straight to Ben's face.
Yeah, Ben, right? Jerry's son.
Courtesy of his father's wishes. It's a message that gets through loud and clear. Ben understands Knox's purpose and pleads for a chance to handle things his own way. Elsewhere, Ellie drops off Dalton at his stop, and as she drives away, she spots two officers taking him away. Dalton's situation gets even more dangerous when he's cornered by the sheriff, who is working with Ben. The sheriff tries to intimidate Dalton, but he stands up to him. Frustrated, the sheriff orders his men to drag Dalton out of his car, wanting to finish things then and there. However, just as they are about to act, Ellie appears and slaps the sheriff in the face, ensuring Dalton's safety. As they escape, Ellie reveals to Dalton that the sheriff is her father, and she ran away from him with her mother. She tells Dalton that he's been in Gerald Bant's employ for ages and now works for his son. With concern etched on her face, she urges Dalton to ski-daddle from their city and find a safer place to lay low. Meanwhile, outside Charlie's quaint bookstore, Vince and Sam are up to no good, plotting to set it ablaze. They're just about to carry out their nefarious plan when Stephen intervenes, urging Charlie to evacuate. But Charlie refuses to budge. Later that night, Dalton returns to the roadhouse looking glum. Laura notices his demeanor and probes him about it, but before he can respond, Ben barges in, demanding Dalton's attention. He thrusts a video in Dalton's face, showing his brutal victory in his last UFC match, where he goes as far as to harm his own friend after winning. Seeing Dalton's anguish, Ben questions why he didn't hold back. Dalton remains silent as Ben storms out, meeting Knox outside and ordering him to wreak havoc.
Hello, man.
Chaos erupts as Knox and his crew barrel in. Knox doesn't hold back, laying into Billy and Reef. Despite the commotion, Dalton stays cool as a cucumber until Knox specifically calls him out. Dalton wades into the fray, facing off against Knox in a brutal showdown. Despite taking a beating, Dalton remains resolute. As the police arrive, Knox calls off the brawl, revealing a shared struggle between them. Dalton retreats, brushing off Ellie's attempts to stop him. He boards his boat, ready to leave it all behind. But just as he's about to set sail, Frankie arrives, bearing apologies for keeping secrets. She confesses Ben's plans for a lavish resort, but Dalton, unmoved, bids her farewell. Meanwhile, Ben receives some unsettling news. Knox failed to carry out their plan to eliminate Dalton. To make matters worse, the wrong cops showed up, throwing a wrench in their scheme. Frustrated and desperate, Ben rushes to the bus stand, only to discover Charlie's beloved bookstore reduced to ashes. His heart sinks as he learns Charlie and her father are hospitalized. This turn of events jolts Dalton into action, prompting him to pay Knox a visit. Arriving at Knox's place, Dalton finds Vince lurking alone. Confirming Vince's role in the bookstore fire, Dalton swiftly takes matters into his own hands, breaking Vince's hyoid bone when he tries to strike. As Vince writhes in agony in the pool, Dalton confronts the darkness within himself, acknowledging his fear when pushed to the edge. With Vince's lifeless body loaded into his truck, Dalton's attention shifts to Mo, who stumbles upon the scene. Offering Mo a chance at escape, Dalton learns crucial information. Ben's ill-gotten money will arrive at dawn, with Mo providing the location. Later that night, Dalton is haunted by memories of his violent past, grappling with regret as he kills his friend in his final fight. Morning breaks and Dalton springs into action, ambushing the deputy tasked with handling Ben's dirty money. With deft precision, Dalton redirects the funds onto a boat, sending it sailing away. But Dalton isn't finished yet. He turns the deputy's own gun against Vince, framing him for Vince's murder.
You know what, though? There's a real possibility you won't remember any of this anyway.
Wait, what?
As the deputy begins to regain consciousness, Dalton swiftly silences him, revealing a chilling knowledge of the precise force needed to erase short-term memory. Dalton's in the middle of stacking explosives when the sheriff bursts onto the scene. Desperate for help, he spills the beans. Ben's nabbed Ellie, and he's demanding cash to let her go. At first, Dalton plays. The sheriff drops a bombshell. The deputy spilled the beans. With Ellie's safety on the line, Dalton reluctantly agrees to pitch in, demanding to know where they're meeting. Once the sheriff splits, Dalton swipes Dex's boat, despite Dex's pleas to handle it with care. Meanwhile, Knox returns home to an eerie silence. Cut to Dalton's arrival at Ben's boat, where he's greeted by Sam. Sam's quick to inform him that Ben won't be pleased, especially since Dalton's arrived empty-handed. A joke from Dalton earns him a punch in the face from Sam. Inside, Dalton confronts Ben and the sheriff, smelling a rat with the sheriff's involvement. But sheriff's got a trick up his sleeve. Turns out, it was all a bluff, and Ellie's safe. Ben, however, stirs the pot, claiming responsibility for Ellie's disappearance, sending the sheriff into a rage. But Ben's quick to soothe him, talking about his own ambitions. With no cash in sight, Ben orders Sam to rough up Dalton, threatening Ellie's safety. Just as tensions peak, Knox's boat pulls up, distracting them all. Dalton seizes the moment, setting off the boat's hidden explosives. The explosion rocks them all, but Dalton shakes it off, determined to find Ellie before it's too late. Ellie's desperately clawing at the glass as Dalton rushes to her side. Just as a gunman takes aim, the window shatters, granting them a narrow escape. They burst out into the open, with Dalton urging Ellie onto a boat, promising to follow soon. But their troubles aren't over yet. As Dalton grapples with their assailant, Knox joins the fray, using his boat as a weapon. Dalton manages to turn the tables, tossing their attacker into Knox's boat. Meanwhile, Ellie leaps onto another boat, only to find Ben waiting for her. He lashes out, but Ellie fights back, forcing him. Back on the water, Dalton wrestles Knox for control, eventually gaining the upper hand and sending Knox plunging into the depths. But Knox isn't done yet. He clings to a rope, determined to pursue Dalton. Just then, Dalton spots Ben bearing down on them. With quick reflexes, he leaps onto Ben's boat, ready to settle the score. But Ellie warns him of an impending collision with the roadhouse. Thinking fast, she urges Dalton to jump clear. As their boats collide with the building, Ben is sent flying onto the roof, while Knox swims to safety and commandeers a passing car. Meanwhile, Dalton instructs Ellie to stay put as he confronts Ben. Ben tries to skewer Dalton with a fishing spear, but Dalton's fury knows no bounds. He incapacitates Ben, first breaking his back, then his nose, before raining down blows upon him. But before he can finish the job, Knox crashes into the scene, igniting a brutal showdown.
This piano's out of tune.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Dalton and Knox prove evenly matched, but Knox gains the upper hand, driving a wooden shard into Dalton's kidney, weakening him. Just as Knox prepares to deliver the final blow, Ben intervenes, ordering Knox to fulfill his duty. But Knox has other plans. Dispatching Ben before turning his attention back to Dalton, he hesitates, then plunges the wooden pieces into him multiple times, ending Knox's life then and there. With Knox gone, Ellie emerges, and Walton, feeling remorseful, apologizes to her. The sheriff arrives, urging Dalton to leave immediately, promising to handle the aftermath. Amidst the chaos, Frankie and her crew return to the roadhouse, hopeful for a fresh start. Their optimism grows as a customer walks in, hinting at a potential turnaround. Days pass, and Dalton prepares to depart. Charlie implores him to stay, but Dalton, rejecting any hero status, insists on leaving. Stephen returns to his shop to find a mysterious box containing Ben's money and Dalton's book, Fred the Tree. Before he can react, Dalton's bus pulls away, leaving Stephen crestfallen. Billy watches the bus depart, feeling melancholy, but Reef uplifts him, encouraging resilience. Meanwhile, Dalton bids farewell to the city, closing the chapter as the movie draws to a close. Thanks for watching.